Yes, and as we know, Starmer doesn't think about the British people, certainly not in any endearing sense anyway. He thinks about his friends in Davos, and as you kind of alluded to there, Brian, he did say under questioning from Emily Maitlis, I think it was, if he preferred Davos or Westminster, and he said Davos straight out the gate. So we know who's pulling his strings, and actually we know who's pulling Zelensky's strings as well, amongst other people, because Ukraine, in the destruction of that country, is going to be rebuilt through the World Economic Forum and a huge amount of investment from BlackRock as well, amongst others. That's actually the game that's being played here, the deliberate destruction of nation states. They can be replaced with a new order. And the World Economic Forum is right at the heart of it. Been a bit of a personnel change there over the past couple of months. You may have heard, we probably mentioned it on the news at some point, that Klaus Schwab left his position as chairman. He'd been there since 1972, 43 years in the top seat at the World Economic Forum. But then the very next day, a whistleblower submitted some allegations to the WEF board, basically saying that Schwab had blurred the lines between his personal and corporate interests, as if that was the worst thing the World Economic Forum had ever done, or Klaus Schwab had ever done, which is not really surprising, to be honest with you, given that he actually was the unelected ruler of this global corporate empire, and also actually ran something called the Schwab Foundation under the auspices of the World Economic Forum, which was run by his wife, and I believe his children work in the forum as well. Exactly, this is exactly what it is. But obviously, the WEF have run an internal investigation, and I'm very happy to say for Herr Schwab that he was cleared of all wrongdoing. It's a bit like when they get a new chairman in at the BBC and they run an internal review and they come back and say, no, everything's fine, the BBC's fantastic. Exactly the same thing here, wouldn't you say?
Without any doubt.
Marking his own.
You don't need to speak because it's obvious what's going on then. It's obvious.
Marking his own homework. But they have appointed, and this is the real big news, two interim chairs. One of them was announced earlier in the year. I'm going to forget his name off the top of my head, but he's the former Nestle chief executive. And then over the weekend, we found out that this guy, Larry Fink, the founder of BlackRock, who sits on top of $12 trillion of accumulated wealth, is now going to be running the World Economic Forum. And essentially this is, more of the same. Schwab was always boasting about the fact that he had penetrated the cabinets of all of the major nations. Well, Fink has already done exactly the same thing. He was hanging around with Starmer last year, while the Standard was boasting about him going on an asset buying spree in the undervalued UK. Yeah, so Starmer's thinking about the British people, but actually in reality,
selling off their assets.
It's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, and really, this is what they mean by economic growth. By the way, it means BlackRock buying everything at a discount. That's what economic growth is. And also, let's not forget, he was also hanging around with Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner, current Deputy Prime Minister, actually slated by some to be a future leader of the country, remarkably. So we can see that even with Schwab gone, the relationship between the World Economic Forum and the current Labour government and the rest of our political apparatus is as strong as it ever was. And what are they particularly focused on? They're focused on delivering the Sustainable Development Goals, as we're going to get into.
Indeed. Yeah, and of course that man BlackRock heavily involved in Ukraine and supposedly the rebuilding of Ukraine when the war is over. So all of those deals already signed and in place for people to make billions off the suffering of the Ukrainian people. And I think this is an important point. If anybody out there thinks that by defending the Russian position at the moment, we are in somehow against the Ukrainians, of course, taken to the cleaners by the West, country destroyed, 1 million men, the figures are pointing towards, killed in this horrific war, and then the country is simply going to be hoovered up with the West for more profit. It's quite obscene. Diane, let's bring you